The first time Clara Vale saw Julian Mercer after 7 years, she was standing outside the ballroom where she had once been expected to marry him. She wasn't there to attend the party. She was there to ruin it. Rain ran from the brim of her black hat and soaked the shoulders of her coat. Across the road, beneath a line of golden lights, the Mercer Foundation's annual winter gala was in full swing. Expensive cars were arriving beneath the awning. Women in silk stepped carefully over puddles. Men in dinner jackets laughed as photographers called their names. And through the tall glass doors, Clara could see the man who had once promised her forever. Julian Mercer looked exactly as he had in every photograph she had spent years trying not to look at. Dark hair, straight shoulders, that infuriatingly calm expression. 7 years ago, Clara had loved him so completely that she had mistaken love for safety. Tonight, she had come to prove she no longer did. She reached into her handbag and touched the envelope hidden beneath her gloves. Inside were copies of bank statements, photographs, and one letter. Enough to make Julian's father furious. Enough to make Julian's mother humiliated. Enough, Clara hoped, to make Julian finally understand what it felt like to have everything taken away. She had almost reached the doors when someone stepped in front of her. "You're either very brave," a man's voice said, "or very bad at planning." Clara looked up. She knew him, not personally. Everyone in their world knew Adrian Blackwood. He was the man who had appeared out of nowhere 5 years ago and bought 3 failing companies before turning them into one of the fastest-growing private investment firms in the country. He was also, according to the newspapers, ruthless. According to society gossip, arrogant. According to 3 women Clara knew personally, devastatingly handsome. She had never cared about any of that. Until now. Adrian looked at her black coat, her wet hair, and the envelope she had failed to hide completely. "Move," Clara said. He didn't. "You're holding evidence." Her stomach tightened. "Excuse me?" Against Julian Mercer. The rain drummed against the pavement. Clara stared at him. Adrian glanced through the glass doors. "You're not the only person who wants revenge tonight." That was how the revenge began. Not with a kiss. Not with a confession. With 2 strangers standing in the rain, discovering that they hated the same people for completely different reasons. "You know what he did to me?" Clara asked. "No." "You know what his family did?" "No." "Then you don't know enough to stop me." Adrian's expression changed. For the first time, the confidence disappeared. "My former fiancée," he said quietly, "was supposed to marry me 6 years ago." Clara said nothing. Her name was Evelyn Mercer. Clara's eyes widened. "Julian's sister?" "Yes." He looked through the ballroom doors. "And the man you were supposed to marry was Julian." The coincidence was almost absurd. Clara slowly lowered the envelope. "What happened?" Adrian laughed once. There was no humor in it. "Evelyn ruined me." He told her about the photographs released to the press, about the fabricated accusations that he had stolen money from investors, about the business partners who abandoned him, about the engagement being canceled publicly, with Evelyn standing beside Julian and their parents while Adrian was made to look like a criminal. His company collapsed within months. His father died believing his son had disgraced the family. Adrian had spent years rebuilding everything. "And Julian?" Clara asked. "He watched. And Evelyn?" "He left her with the sympathy of everyone in our social circle." Clara stared at him. "My father lost everything because of Julian." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "How?" "He convinced my father to invest in a development project. The project failed. The money disappeared. My father's company collapsed. My parents divorced. My mother left the country." She swallowed. "I was 26. Julian promised he would help me. He didn't. He disappeared." Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "We should make them regret it." Clara almost laughed. "That's your plan?" "No." He leaned closer. "My plan is better." Inside the ballroom, Julian raised a champagne glass. Adrian nodded towards him. "You want revenge?" "Yes." "Then don't attack him." Clara frowned. Make him invite you in. The plan sounded ridiculous. It also sounded perfect. Julian had rebuilt his reputation as a charming philanthropist. Evelyn had become one of the most photographed women in the city. They moved in the same circles, attended the same charity dinners, and sat on the boards of prestigious foundations. They were untouchable because everyone loved them. But there was one thing their world valued more than money: status. And nothing created status faster than marrying into another powerful family. Adrian looked at Clara. You and I become the perfect couple. She stared at him. Absolutely not. We get engaged. No. We attend their parties. No. We make them believe we're madly in love. Still no. And eventually we marry. Clara laughed. You've lost your mind. Probably. He smiled. But imagine Julian's face. She stopped laughing. Because she could. And that was the problem. 3 months later, Clara Vale and Adrian Blackwood were the most talked about couple in the city. No one knew they had made a pact. No one knew the first photograph of them together had been staged. No one knew their first dinner had been spent writing rules on a napkin. Rule 1. Never fall in love. Rule 2. Never trust the Mercers. Rule 3. Whoever breaks Rule 1 admits it first and loses control of the plan. Clara had added Rule 4. No kissing unless necessary. Adrian had looked at her. Define necessary. Never. That seems clear. It had been easy at first. They were performers. Clara knew how to smile at people she disliked. Adrian knew how to charm people he intended to destroy. At parties, he touched the small of her back. She laughed at his jokes. He whispered things into her ear that sounded romantic to everyone else. Sometimes they were. That was the dangerous part. One evening, at a charity auction, Julian approached Clara while Adrian was speaking to investors. You look happy, Julian said. Clara's smile remained fixed. I am. Julian glanced towards Adrian. You hardly knew him 3 months ago. I know him better now. Julian looked uncomfortable. Clara, I tried to contact you after everything happened. No, I did. You sent one email. I was advised not to pursue it. By whom? Julian hesitated. My family. Clara's eyes hardened. Of course. He looked genuinely wounded. That's not fair. Fair. She almost laughed. You want to talk to me about fair? Julian lowered his voice. Your father wasn't ruined because of me. Clara froze. What? I never authorized that investment. She stared at him. You expect me to believe that? I expect you to believe that I didn't do it. Then who did? Julian looked over her shoulder. His face changed. Clara, there's something you need to know. Before he could continue, Adrian appeared. His arm slipped around her waist. Everything all right? Julian stepped back. Perfectly. Adrian smiled. I thought so. Julian walked away. Clara looked at Adrian. You heard him. Enough. He says he didn't ruin my father. He's lying. Are you sure? Adrian's jaw tightened. Yes. But later that night, Clara noticed something strange. Adrian had followed Julian outside. She watched from the upstairs balcony. The two men stood beneath a stone archway. Julian looked furious. Adrian looked frightened. Clara had never seen Adrian frightened before. She couldn't hear the conversation. Then Julian handed Adrian an envelope. Adrian took it and hid it inside his jacket. Clara felt something cold settle in her stomach. She had made a pact with a man she barely knew, and now she wondered whether he had made a pact of his own. The following week, Clara discovered Adrian had been quietly protecting Evelyn. It happened by accident. She had gone to Adrian's office late at night to surprise him. Instead, she found Evelyn Mercer sitting across from his desk. Clara stopped outside the half-open door. I told you not to come here, Adrian said. I had nowhere else to go. You always have somewhere else to go. Not anymore. Clara listened. Evelyn's voice trembled. They're going to kill him. Who? I don't know. Adrian stood. Then you need to leave. I can't. You can. Adrian, please. Clara pushed the door open. Both of them turned. Silence. Clara stared at Evelyn. Then Adrian. Then Evelyn again. Interesting, she said. Adrian's face went pale. Clara, you've been seeing her. No. She's sitting in your office at midnight. It's not what you think. That's usually what people say when it is exactly what you think. Evelyn stood. Clara, I can explain. Clara laughed. Please don't. She looked at Adrian. Did you protect her because you still love her? No. Then why? He didn't answer. That was enough. Clara turned and walked away. Adrian followed. Clara, wait. She spun around. You lied to me. I didn't. You told me you wanted revenge. I do. Then why are you protecting the woman who destroyed you? Because she didn't destroy me. Clara stared at him. What? Adrian looked exhausted. I found out 6 months ago. Found out what? He looked away. That Evelyn wasn't responsible. Clara's anger faltered. Then who was? I don't know. She stared at him. You knew. I suspected. You let me spend months believing Julian ruined my life. I thought he had. And you were going to marry me while keeping this from me? His eyes met hers. We weren't actually getting married. The words hurt more than either of them expected. Clara stepped back. No. Clara, you don't get to say that now. She walked away. Adrian didn't follow. For the first time since their pact began, neither of them knew how to continue. 3 days later, Clara received a package. Inside was an old photograph. It showed her father shaking hands with a man she didn't recognize. On the back was written, "You have been blaming the wrong people." Clara turned the photograph over again. The man standing beside her father had a familiar face. She had seen him before. At the Mercer Gala. At Adrian's office. At Evelyn's charity foundation. He was the quiet man who never appeared in photographs. Henry Blackwood. Adrian's uncle. Clara's blood ran cold. She called Adrian. He answered immediately. I know, she said. A pause. Know what? Your uncle. Another pause. Where are you? At home. Lock the doors. Adrian. Clara, lock the doors. She heard something in his voice. Not anger. Fear. She did as he said. 20 minutes later, Adrian arrived. He didn't knock. He used the key she had given him months earlier. He found her standing in the kitchen with the photograph. I should have told you, he said. Yes. My uncle was involved in the collapse of my company. Clara stared at him. How? He manipulated the accounts. And Evelyn? He used her. And Julian? I don't know. You're lying. I'm not. You are. Adrian stepped closer. I don't know whether Julian knew. Then why protect Evelyn? Because she discovered the truth. Clara looked at the photograph. How long? Years. You could have told me. I wanted proof. No. He shook his head. You don't understand. Then make me understand. Adrian looked at her. I was afraid. That stopped her. I was afraid that if I told you before I knew everything, you'd go after them and get yourself hurt. Clara's eyes filled with tears. You don't get to decide what I can survive. I know. Then why did you? Because I love you. The room went silent. Adrian seemed almost shocked by his own words. Clara stared at him. He laughed bitterly. Well, she wiped away a tear. You lost. What? Rule 3. A faint smile appeared on his face. Yes. You admitted it first. I suppose I did. Clara shook her head. I hate you. I know. I really hate you. I know. She stepped closer. And I love you too. His expression changed. That's unfortunate. Very. For one brief moment, they stood there smiling through tears. Then the lights went out. A crash came from the front room. Adrian grabbed Clara's hand. Stay behind me. A shadow moved through the doorway. Then a voice said, You two really should have stopped digging. It was Henry, the man who had been pulling the strings for years. He told them the truth. He had engineered Clara's father's collapse because he wanted the property beneath the development project. He had destroyed Adrian's company because Adrian's father had discovered his embezzlement. He had framed Evelyn because she found the financial records. And Julian? Julian had tried to protect both of them. He had vanished from Clara's life because Henry threatened her. He had allowed Clara to hate him because it was safer than letting Henry know the truth. The revenge they had built their relationship around had been based on a lie. But there was one final twist. Julian hadn't known the whole truth either. Henry had manipulated everyone. And the person who finally brought the evidence was the one person Clara least expected. Evelyn. She walked into the room holding a small recorder. I have him admitting everything. Henry's face fell. Adrian stared at his former fiancée. Evelyn looked at him. I told you I wasn't the enemy. He nodded slowly. I know. Clara looked at Julian, who had followed Evelyn into the room. He looked at her. I'm sorry. She swallowed. I know. I should have told you. You were trying to protect me. I was. She smiled sadly. You were always terrible at explaining yourself. Julian laughed. So I've been told. The police arrived before dawn. Henry was arrested. The evidence cleared Adrian's name. It restored Clara's father's reputation posthumously. It also exposed the Mercer family's role in concealing parts of the scandal, though Julian and Evelyn had their own explanations to make. For the first time in years, nobody could hide behind the family name. The city loved the scandal. Newspapers printed photographs. Television presenters speculated. Friends chose sides. And Clara and Adrian? They disappeared. For 3 weeks. They went to a small coastal town where nobody knew them. There was no revenge. No society parties. No cameras. No pretending. One morning, Clara found Adrian sitting outside a cafe, staring at the sea. She sat beside him. Do you regret it? What? Everything. He thought about it. I regret the years I spent angry. Me too. I regret lying to you. Definitely. I regret making a fake engagement feel real. She looked at him. That one I don't regret. He smiled. Neither do I. She reached for his hand. What happens now? He turned towards her. We stop pretending. And if we discover we don't know how to be normal? We've never been normal. She laughed. True. He squeezed her hand. I want to marry you. She stared at him. That's a terrible proposal. I know. You've had months to prepare. I was going to do something elaborate. What happened? I realized I didn't need an audience. She smiled. That's better. He stood and held out his hand. Come with me. Where? Somewhere. That's suspiciously vague. You'll survive. They walked down towards the water. At the end of the pier, Adrian stopped. He reached into his pocket. Clara raised an eyebrow. Don't. What? If you have a ring, I'm leaving. He laughed. I don't. She relaxed. Good. He held out his hand. But I do have this. It was the old napkin. The one from the restaurant where they had made their revenge pact. Clara stared at it. The ink had faded. Rule 1. Never fall in love. Rule 2. Never trust the Mercers. Rule 3. Whoever confesses first loses control. Adrian had crossed out the first rule. Beneath it, he had written, apparently we failed. Clara laughed so hard she cried. You kept this. Of course. You sentimental idiot. Yes. She folded the napkin carefully. Then she kissed him. Not because they were pretending. Not because someone was watching. Not because it was part of a plan. Because there was finally nothing left to prove. Months later, Clara walked back into the ballroom where everything had begun. This time there were no reporters. No revenge. No hidden envelope. No secret agenda. Only Adrian waiting for her. She looked around. Do you ever think about that first night? Constantly. I thought you were arrogant. I was. I thought you were dangerous. I was. I thought you were using me. I was. She looked at him. He smiled. For about 24 hours. She laughed. Then what? I started falling in love with you. You didn't tell me. I was trying to win. You lost. I know. He took her hand. Around them, music began. They stepped onto the dance floor. For years, Clara had believed love was something that could be taken from you. Her father had lost his fortune. Her mother had lost her marriage. Adrian had lost his company. Evelyn had lost her reputation. Julian had lost the woman he loved because he believed silence could protect her. Everyone had been hurt by secrets. Everyone had believed revenge would heal them. But revenge had only brought Clara and Adrian together long enough for them to discover something neither had planned for. The one thing they couldn't control: each other. As they danced, Adrian leaned closer. One question. What? If we had known the truth that night, would you still have agreed to the plan? Clara pretended to consider it. No. He looked offended. Really? I wouldn't have needed revenge. And now? She looked up at him. Now I have you. He smiled. That's dangerously sentimental. I know. And if I make you angry, I'll remind you that you lost Rule 3. He laughed. Fair. She rested her head against his shoulder. Outside, the rain began again. The same rain. The same ballroom. But nothing else was the same. Once, Clara had stood outside that door believing she had come to destroy a man. She had entered believing revenge was the only thing that could give her back the life she had lost. Instead, she found someone who had lost his own life in almost exactly the same way. They had lied to each other, manipulated each other, used each other, protected people they were supposed to hate, hated people they were supposed to trust, and somewhere between the lies and the revenge, they had fallen in love. Not the easy kind, not the perfect kind. The kind that survived being tested. The kind that survived the truth. The kind that remained after revenge had nothing left to offer. And when the music ended, Adrian didn't let go of her hand. Neither did Clara. Because this time there was no plan. There was no audience. There was no enemy waiting behind the curtain. There was only the choice they had finally made for themselves. And for the first time in years, they chose love. Thanks for sticking around until the end. If you found this story interesting, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And if you want to hear plenty more stories just like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more to unpack in future videos. See you soon.